It was 2 in the morning when my phone buzzed again, the same jittery, impatient vibration that had been haunting my nights for 3 weeks. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the green button, knowing that answering would mean diving back into a case that had already stolen my sleep, my peace of mind, and almost my faith in people. But I couldn't ignore it. Not this time. Not ever, really. Because this wasn't just another file on my desk. This was a name, Sarah. And behind that name was a story that had begun to feel less like a mystery and more like a mirror. I'm a private investigator, but not the kind you see in movies. I don't carry a gun or chase down criminals in dark alleyways. My job is quieter, sadder in a way. I find missing pieces. Sometimes it's a lost heirloom, sometimes a runaway teenager, and occasionally, like this time, a truth that someone has buried so deep they've forgotten they were the one who dug the grave. The case that kept me up at night started like any other, a woman's voice on the phone, trembling with that particular blend of hope and desperation that I've come to recognize as the most honest sound in the world. "Please," she had said. "I need to find my daughter's birth mother. I only have 6 months." Her name was Elena, and she was dying. Not dramatically, not with a theatrical cough or a hospital bed surrounded by wilting flowers. She was dying quietly, the way a library book slowly fades in the sun, pages yellowing, spine cracking, but still holding stories that mattered. Elena had adopted her daughter, Mia, 12 years ago. Mia was now 14, bright, curious, and beginning to ask questions that Elena could no longer answer with a hug and a distraction. "Who do I look like? Why did she give me away? Do you think she ever thinks about me?" Elena had promised herself she would find the birth mother before the cancer won. She wanted to give Mia something she couldn't take with her, a beginning. I took the case because I'm weak for promises made in the dark. Also because my own mother had died when I was 13, and I'd spent the next 20 years chasing ghosts who looked like her in crowded grocery stores and airport terminals. I knew what it was like to grow up with a question mark where your origin story should be. So I said yes, shook Elena's fragile hand, and started digging. The file was thin, alarmingly so. A closed adoption through a small agency that had since gone bankrupt, its records scattered like ashes in the wind. The birth mother had used a pseudonym, June. She had been 19, a college student from a town called Harmony, which sounded too perfect to be true and probably was. She had left no forwarding address, no last name, no trace except for a single handwritten letter tucked into Mia's adoption file, which Elena had never shown her daughter because she was saving it for the right moment. Now she handed it to me, her fingers trembling. "To my baby girl," the letter began. "I hope you never have to wonder if you were wanted. You were. More than anything. But wanting you and keeping you are two different things when you're 19 and sleeping on a friend's couch and your own mother hasn't spoken to you since she found out. I'm not brave. I'm just honest. And the honest truth is that I love you too much to raise you in a world that hasn't figured out how to love me back yet. Please forgive me. Please be happy. Please, 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 don't come looking for me. I'm not the person you need me to be. Love, your first mother." I read that letter 17 times over the next 3 days. Each time, something new cracked open inside me. The first time, I felt pity. The 5th time, anger. How could a mother write such beautiful words and then vanish? The 10th time, recognition. Because I had once written a similar letter, in my head if not on paper, to the father who left when I was 7. "Don't come looking for me. I'm not the person you need me to be." I had spent my whole life proving that letter wrong, chasing the impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, he had changed. He hadn't. But that didn't stop me from wanting to believe that someone else's story could end differently. I started with the obvious, the defunct adoption agency's former employees. Most had scattered to other states, other lives. But one woman, a retired social worker named Margaret, still lived in Harmony. She agreed to meet me at a diner off the highway, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like regret. Margaret was 72, with silver hair and the wary eyes of someone who had seen too many young girls cry into her office carpet. "June," she said, stirring her coffee even though she hadn't added anything to it. "I remember her. You don't forget the ones who signed the papers with tears on their hands. What can you tell me?" Margaret sighed. She was brilliant. Top of her class. Could have been anything, doctor, lawyer, maybe even a writer with the way she talked. But her family cut her off when they found out about the pregnancy. Strict religious background. The kind where shame is a currency and girls like June go bankrupt overnight. Did she have any friends? A support system? One friend. A roommate. Girl named Chloe. They were thick as thieves, those two. Chloe drove her to every appointment, held her hand during the delivery, even tried to talk her out of the adoption at the last minute. But June was adamant. She kept saying, "She deserves more than I can give." Margaret paused, looking out the window at the rain beginning to fall. After the adoption, June moved away. Didn't leave a forwarding address. But Chloe stayed in town for a few more years. If anyone knows where June went, it'd be her. It took me another week to find Chloe. She had married, changed her name, and moved to a suburb outside Phoenix. When I called, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, "I've been waiting for this call for 12 years. I flew to Arizona the next day, my own money because Elena's was running out faster than her time. Chloe met me in a park full of blooming desert flowers, the kind that only thrive in harsh conditions. She was in her late 30s, with kind eyes and the fidgety hands of someone holding back a flood. June is dead, Chloe said. Before I could even sit down, the words hit me like a physical blow. I had prepared myself for many things, reluctance, denial, even hostility. But not this. Not a closed door that would never open again. She died 7 years ago, Chloe continued, her voice steady but thin. Ovarian cancer. The same thing that's killing Elena, actually. Ironic, isn't it? 2 mothers, same disease, different endings. I felt the ground shift beneath me. This wasn't just a closed case anymore. It was a tragedy wearing a second mask. Did she ever try to find Mia? Chloe laughed, but there was no joy in it. She thought about it every single day. But she was terrified. Her life after the adoption, it didn't turn out the way she hoped. She never finished college. Never had another child. Worked 2 jobs, lived in a studio apartment, and spent every birthday of Mia's sitting alone in the dark, holding that little hospital bracelet they gave her when Mia was born. Chloe pulled a worn photograph from her wallet. She asked me to give this to Mia if the day ever came. The photo showed a young woman with messy brown hair and a gap-toothed smile, holding a newborn against her chest. On the back, in faded ink, "My greatest joy and my deepest sorrow. June, age 19. Mia, 1 hour old." I took the photo with hands that were shaking. Does Mia have any other family? A father? Grandparents? Chloe shook her head. June's family disowned her completely. They moved, changed their numbers. As for the father, he was a married professor. When June told him she was pregnant, he denied everything and transferred to another university across the country. She never even told him the baby was a girl. I sat there in that desert park, surrounded by flowers that bloomed against all odds, and I felt something crack open inside me again. Not pity this time. Not anger. Something heavier. Something that felt like the weight of every untold story, every unspoken apology, every love that had nowhere to go. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my motel room, staring at the ceiling, running through every detail. June was gone. The birth mother Mia had been searching for no longer existed in any tangible way. All that remained was a photo, a letter, and a story that ended in a hospital room where a young woman had died alone, still whispering the name of the daughter she had given away. I could have closed the case then. I had done my job. I had found the truth, even if it was a brutal one. I could have flown back to Elena, handed her the photo and the information about June's death, and let her decide what to tell Mia. That would have been professional. Clean. Efficient. But something kept me up at night. Something about the letter June had written, the way she had begged her daughter not to come looking. "I'm not the person you need me to be." What if that wasn't a confession of inadequacy? What if it was a plea for grace? What if June had spent her final years not running away from Mia, but running towards something she could never reach, the chance to be seen, not as a hero or a villain, but as a flawed, frightened, fiercely loving human being? I couldn't give Mia her birth mother. But maybe, just maybe, I could give her something almost as precious, the truth of who June really was. Not the myth of a perfect parent, but the reality of a woman who made an impossible choice and paid for it every single day for the rest of her life. The next morning, I called Chloe again. I need everything you have, I said. Every photo, every letter, every memory. I need to build a portrait of June that Mia can hold on to. Chloe cried on the phone for 10 minutes. Then she said, I've been saving it all. Her journals, her playlists, even her old textbooks with her notes in the margins. I always hoped someone would come asking. I spent the next 2 months traveling. I went to June's old college, walked the halls she had walked, sat in the library where she had studied for hours with a growing belly hidden under oversized sweaters. I interviewed her professors, her co-workers from the diner where she worked after dropping out, the landlord of her studio apartment who remembered her as that quiet girl who always paid her rent in cash and never had visitors. I found a high school yearbook with her photograph, a younger June, still hopeful, still whole. I found a letter she had written to Chloe but never sent, dated 6 months before she died. Chloe, I dream about her almost every night. She's 14 now. She has my chin and her father's eyes. In the dream, she finds me. She doesn't yell or cry. She just sits down next to me on this old bench in Harmony, the one by the river where I used to go when I was pregnant and needed to feel close to something bigger than my own fear. She says, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to know you. And I wake up crying because I want that so badly, but I also know I don't deserve it. Tell me, is it selfish to want to be known, even when you've done something unforgivable? I read that letter so many times the paper grew soft as fabric. And I realized something that cracked me open for the final time. June wasn't afraid of being rejected. She was afraid of being forgiven. Because forgiveness would mean accepting that she was worthy of love all along, and that was a truth she had spent her entire life running from. I compiled everything into a leather-bound journal: photographs, letters, timelines, memories from everyone who had known June. I included the diner receipt from the day she found out she was pregnant. She had ordered a milkshake and cried into it for an hour, according to the waitress. I included a pressed flower from the bench by the river in Harmony. I included a copy of her favorite poem, Mary Oliver's Wild Geese, which she had underlined in one of her textbooks. You do not have to be good. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And on the final page, I wrote a letter of my own. Not as a private investigator, but as a boy who had once searched for his father and found only silence. I wrote, Dear Mia, I never met your birth mother. But I've spent the last 3 months walking in her footsteps, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty: she loved you. Not perfectly. Not heroically. But truly. She loved you the way a garden loves the rain that also floods it. She loved you the way a song loves the silence that follows it. She gave you away not because you weren't enough, but because she didn't believe she was. And that belief broke her. But it doesn't have to break you. You are not her shame. You are her hope. And hope, unlike people, never dies. It just waits for someone brave enough to carry it forward. I flew back to Elena's house on a Tuesday. She was thinner than when I had left, her skin the color of old parchment, but her eyes were still fierce. Mia sat next to her on the couch, a gangly 14-year-old with her mother's chin and a stranger's eyes, the eyes of a man who had run away, but also, I now understood, the eyes of a woman who had stayed as long as she could. I handed Elena the journal. She opened it slowly, carefully, the way you unwrap something you've been waiting for your whole life. She read for 20 minutes without speaking, tears sliding down her cheeks, her hand clutching Mia's the entire time. Mia watched her mother's face, confused at first, then curious, then finally, when Elena turned to the page with June's photograph, understanding. Is that her? Mia whispered. Elena nodded, unable to speak. Mia took the journal with trembling hands. She read June's letter, the one written 12 years ago, the one that began to my baby girl. She read the unsent letter about the bench by the river. She read the poem, the receipts, the memories from strangers who had loved a woman they barely knew. And when she got to my letter, the one I had written from the broken place inside me that still ached for my own absent father, She looked up at me with eyes that were wet but not drowned. She was scared, Mia said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. She was. But she never stopped thinking about me. Never. Mia closed the journal and held it against her chest like a shield or a heart. Then she turned to her mother, Elena, the woman who had chosen her, who was dying but still fighting, who had spent her last months not on herself but on this gift, and said something I will carry with me to my own grave. I have two mothers now. One who gave me life, and one who taught me how to live it. I think that makes me the luckiest girl in the world. Elena pulled her daughter close, and they cried together, not from sorrow but from the strange, fierce relief of being fully known. 3 months later, Elena passed away. I attended the funeral, standing in the back, watching Mia hold the journal in one hand and her mother's obituary in the other. After the service, Mia walked up to me and handed me a small envelope. My mom wanted you to have this, she said. Inside was a photograph of Elena and Mia on adoption day, Elena young and radiant, Mia a tiny bundle in a pink blanket. On the back, Elena had written, "Thank you for finding what we didn't know we were looking for. You didn't just close a case. You opened a door." I still have that photograph. I keep it on my desk, next to the journal I compiled for Mia, which she let me copy before I gave her the original. And on the nights when the phone buzzes with a new case, a new voice trembling with hope and desperation, I look at that photograph and remember why I do this job. Because every missing person is a story. Every story is a wound. And every wound, if you're brave enough to look at it without flinching, is also a door. The case that kept me up at night taught me something I had spent 40 years avoiding, that the people we lose are never really gone. They live in the letters we save, the photographs we hold, the benches by the river where we go to feel close to something bigger than our own fear. They live in the choice to forgive not just others, but ourselves, for running, for hiding, for loving badly but still loving. June died believing she was unforgivable. Elena died knowing she had given her daughter the greatest gift, a story that didn't end in shame, but in grace. And me? I finally stopped looking for my father in crowded airports. I wrote my own letter instead, to the boy I used to be, the one who thought he wasn't enough. You are not your father's absence. You are your mother's courage. You are the bench by the river. You are the flower that blooms in the desert. You are the hand that reaches out in the dark, even when it's shaking. I still don't sleep well some nights. But it's not because of the cases anymore. It's because I'm too busy dreaming of all the doors still waiting to be opened, all the Junes and Mias and Elenas who just need someone to sit beside them on the bench and say, "I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to know you."